killed for being Hindu in Kashmir. And this appears to be history repeating itself again and again in Jammu and Kashmir. Some of the most horrifying eyewitness accounts and reports are now emerging from Pahalgam. And perhaps this image, and I want to focus on this image for a second because this image actually symbolizes the pain and the agony of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, why do I want to explain this picture to you very closely? Take a look at this picture. This is a young bride. She was celebrating a vacation in Pahalgam, the meadows of Pahalgam. They had trekked for close to 40 minutes. They'd reached this place. There was a small makeshift restaurant. They just ordered something to eat, perhaps Maggi noodles, and that's when terrorists struck. The terrorists asked her husband to recite the kalma, and he couldn't. He was killed at point blank range in front of her. This new bride, her chuda still in her hand, recounts that nightmare. She says, I still can't believe this has happened. For her, it's still a nightmare. She says, I asked those terrorists, I said, kill me also. Why have you spared me? You've killed my husband, kill me. They said, no, go tell your Modi. We want you to know what's happened. We want the nation to know what's happened. So this young bride watched those terrorists kill her husband because he had a Hindu name and he couldn't recite the kalma. She watched in shock and horror as these terrorists then moved to another family to kill them. Another eyewitness said, and we will play those eyewitness accounts for you here on India First, because you must know what's happening in our country and the countermeasures that India needs to take against this radical Islamist terror. Another family was asked to recite the kalma, and when they couldn't, the men were singled out and killed. Is this 1990 repeating itself in Kashmir? Because remember the horror stories that we heard, that mosque loudspeakers were used to rant, Raliv, Galiv, Ya Saliv, convert to Islam, die or leave Kashmir and leave your women behind. Sadly, is history repeating itself? There are more than 20 tourists who've been killed, who'd gone to Kashmir just to celebrate a vacation. More than 20 are injured. Union Home Minister Amit Shah is currently in Srinagar. He's taking stock of the situation. The question is not, will India respond? The question is, when will India respond and how will India respond? Will it be a tactical response or will it be a strategic response to deal a body blow to this Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror? That's the question we're asking here on India First. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Hundreds of families were in Jammu and Kashmir, and especially at Pahalgam, at this location, at these beautiful meadows. And this is about half an hour's trek from the roadhead, 45 minutes if you walk slow, a little less if you take one of those ponies. And pilgrims, tourists, pilgrims who come for the Amarnath Yatra, they make it a point to visit this place. Of course, Amarnath Yatra is from the 3rd of July. That's when the security grid is put in place. But was there no security grid at all? And if so, why? When there are lakhs and lakhs of tourists in Jammu and Kashmir, it's chock-a-block. You can't get to Dal Lake, and the entire nation is rejoicing the number of tourists in Jammu and Kashmir. But this is when those radical Islamist terrorists struck in Pahalgam. And Pahalgam is a beautiful tourist location. This is where tourists were singled out. The Hindus were singled out and massacred. Clearly, history appears to be repeating itself in Jammu and Kashmir. And I want you to listen to some of those horrifying eyewitness accounts. They're painful. And we're trying not to give you some of those very, very painful accounts, and we urge viewer discretion at the same time. We're not even playing out some of those images. Some of those images that we've seen unedited, they're horrifying. The manner in which terrorists, by some accounts there were 3, by other accounts there could be 4 to 5 or even more, they opened fire indiscriminately. It happened around 1:30 in the afternoon, and that's the time, that's peak tourist time. So tourists from Srinagar, tourists from Anantnag, they were all there in Pahalgam. They trekked to this place. They'd stopped at this makeshift eatery to eat, and there are several of these makeshift eateries there. The forested area around, that's where terrorists came. They came in groups and they opened fire indiscriminately. So people ran helter-skelter. Those who were at that restaurant or that makeshift eatery, the terrorists then went from table to table, person to person, asked them their names, checked their identity cards. In some instances, they asked them to remove clothes, according to some of the eyewitness accounts, asked some others to recite the kalma, and those who couldn't, they were singled out and shot dead at point blank range. Listen in to some of these eyewitness accounts. I'll get you more on this special broadcast.
आपकी क्या बात हुई जो आपके घर वाले वहां पर मौजूद है पहलगाम में, क्या हुआ है आखिर उन्होंने क्या बताया?
एक्चुअली हुआ ये है सर कि हम लोग घूमने आए थे बेताब वैली करके, जहाँ पे मिनी स्विट्जरलैंड एरिया है। वो ओपन एरिया है पूरा पहाड़ी, और वहाँ से कुछ आतंकवादी, मतलब आतंकवादी है कौन है पता नहीं, वो लोग आए, उन्होंने सीधा फायरिंग शुरू कर दिया। और फायरिंग करते टाइम उन लोगों ने, जितने भी हिंदू लोग थे, उनको सबको पकड़ पकड़ के धमकी दिया कि आप अजान पढ़ो, और नहीं पढ़ोगे तो उनको गोलियां मार दी। तो उसमें मेरे पापा, मतलब मेरे पिताजी थे और मेरे चाचा थे, उन दोनों को भी उन लोगों ने गोलियां मारी। मोदी जी का नाम लेके हमें बोल रहे थे कि आप लोगों ने मोदी जी को बढ़ा के रखा है, सर पे चढ़ा के रखा है, आपकी वजह से हमारा मजहब खतरे में है, ये सब वो बोल रहे थे। अभी मेरे पापा चाचा दोनों को 20 गोलियां लगी। हम लोग महाराष्ट्र पुणे से है। हम लोग इधर पहलगाम में अभी शिफ्ट हुए अपने, मैं अपनी मम्मी और चाची के साथ बैठी हूँ यहाँ पे पहलगाम क्लब में।
क्या कैसी है तबीयत आपके चाचा जी की, और की चाचा जी और पिताजी की तबीयत कैसी है?
कुछ अपडेट नहीं है। हम लोग 4 बजे के आसपास, 3:30-4 बजे के आसपास ये इंसिडेंट हुआ, पर तब से अभी तक हमें कोई खबर नहीं है, हमें कुछ भी अपडेट नहीं मिल रहा है सर।
क्या आप सेफ है? आपसे किसी ने संपर्क किया था?
कोई मिनिस्टर आए थे हमसे मिले इधर से।
आप कैसे बच गए? जब आतंकवादी गोलियां चला रहे थे तो आप वहां पर नहीं थे?
मेरे सामने ही हुआ है सब, मेरे साथ ही हम लोग एक इसके पीछे छुपे थे, टेंट के पीछे छुपे थे। वो लोग वहां से आए, उन्होंने मेरे पापा को उठाया, उनको गोलियां मारी। फिर मेरे चाचा लेटे हुए थे, उनको गोलियां मारी। हमारे बाजू में एक फैमिली थी, उनमें से 2 लोगों को उन्होंने गोलियां मारी, और हमें बोला कि अजान पढ़ो नहीं तो तुम लोगों को मार देंगे। और उन्होंने किसी भी औरत को या बच्चे को नहीं मारा, सिर्फ और सिर्फ जेंट्स को मारा है। जितने भी जेंट्स वहाँ पे प्रेजेंट है, जिनसे उनकी बहस हुई, वहाँ पे उनके लोकल कुछ मुस्लिम लोग भी थे, मतलब कश्मीरी मुस्लिम जो भी होंगे पता नहीं कौन थे, बट जो लोग लोकल थे उन लोगों को भी उन्होंने डराया था। वो लोग अजान पढ़ रहे थे, उनका सुन के हम लोग भी पढ़ने लगे कि हमें ना गोली मार दे। पहले ही उन्होंने मेरे पापा जी को और मेरे चाचा को गोली मार दी, और हम लोग वहाँ से भाग के आए। उनको हमें छोड़ के वहाँ से भाग के आना पड़ा। फिर वो लोकल जो राइडिंग के लिए लेके जाते घोड़े वाले, उन लोगों ने, कुछ लोगों ने हमें हेल्प किया, इसलिए हम तीनों सेफली नीचे आ गए। बट उसके बाद से उनको जब मिलिट्री ने रेस्क्यू किया, उनको हॉस्पिटल लेके गए, बट वहाँ से तब से हमें कुछ खबर नहीं है सर, कुछ पता नहीं है कि आगे क्या हो रहा है।
आपने कितने लोगों को देखा? कितने लोग जख्मी हुए थे? कितने लोग मारे गए? कुछ आपने देखा? आपके सामने क्या मंजर था?
20 से ज्यादा तो जख्मी हुए, 100% 20 लोगों से ज्यादा है।
और आप जब ये सब वाकया हुआ,
हमने 5 लोगों को गोली लगते देखा है। उसमें से एक मेरे पापा और चाचा है, एक साइड में अंकल थे, उनको गोली मारी है। मैंने एक कपल देखा जो शायद न्यूली मैरिड होगा, उनको मारी है। हमारे साथ अभी एक मैडम बेटी है, उनके पति को मारा है, उनकी बच्ची बहुत छोटी है।
तो आप जब वहां पे थी तो कितने लोग होंगे उस पूरे एरिया में? क्या था मंजर? कितने लोग आए थे? और वो जो भी थे गोलियां चलाने वाले कौन थे?
वो आए थे पुलिस, जैसे इधर की जो लोकल पुलिस कपड़े रहते हैं वैसे टाइप के कपड़े उन्होंने पहने थे। ऊपर उन्होंने मास्क लगाए थे, जो आर्मी वाले प्रिंटेड मास्क रहते हैं वैसे। उनके हाथ में गन थी। उन्होंने आके सीधा धमका के, जैसे 26/11 टेरर अटैक हो ना सर, वैसे ही इधर आके धमका के वो गोली मार के निकल गए और भाग गए गोली मार के। पहले फायरिंग स्टार्ट हुई तो लोग जब भागना शुरू किए तब हमें पता चला कि लोग आ रहे हैं ऊपर से गोली लेके, गन लेके हाथ में।
क्या किसी लोकल लोगों को भी उन्होंने गोली मारी? क्या किसी लोकल लोगों को भी उन्होंने
लोकल लोगों को नहीं, जो मुस्लिम नहीं है, जो हिंदू है, उनको ही गोली मारी है।
और धर्म पूछ कर गोलियां मारी उन्होंने?
धर्म पूछ के ही मारी ना। आप मुस्लिम हो क्या? नहीं हो ना, हिंदू हो। आप लोगों ने मोदी को सर पे चढ़ा के रखा है, अजान पढ़ो, नहीं आ रहा है अजान पढ़ना, गोली मार दी। मेरे पापा को मेरे सामने 3 गोलियां मारी है सर।
I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu, who joins us with the latest on this big story. Kamal, Hindus were singled out and killed is what eyewitnesses are saying, and not one but multiple accounts. What information, Kamal, do we have of the perpetrators? What more do we know of these alleged terrorists and efforts to nab or neutralize them?
One unprecedented action is expected, whether it's a surgical strike or there's any other measure which will be taken place, because it's Union Home Minister Amit Shah who's micromanaging everything. And remember, it's none other than the Prime Minister who's directed him not only to visit Jammu and Kashmir, but also visit the terror attack site. There is obviously a huge level of alarm. There was information coming in, there was intelligence, especially a chatter. What sources do tell us, they suspect that after the Jafar attack, which took place, remember in Pakistan, when the Baloch militants had attacked the train, and this is when there were massive casualties, and obviously then there were killing of all those Baloch militants. But that is when there was a lot of pressure which came on intelligence agencies of Pakistan as well as the terror groups, that there is so much criticism that nothing much is being done on Kashmir. Meanwhile, Pakistan seems to be facing setback. So this is also a diversionary tactics as far as Pakistan is concerned from their internal conflict to revive the issue of Kashmir terrorism once again. So this has been recce. This has a proper planning and backing of Pakistan ISI. And it seems Saifullah Kasuri is the man who's been identified. He's the Lashkar-e-Taiba deputy chief, close aide of Hafiz Saeed, who's said to be behind this particular attack. And remember, what we know is that these were men in combat uniform, some of them wearing a fairen, but they opened indiscriminate fire at around 2:30, and this is where massive casualties have taken place. And remember, there will be
the countermeasures that
retaliation.
India intends to take. The countermeasures, and I don't mean in the strategic sense, in the tactical sense, about these terrorists. The fact that they could come, strike at will, and then melt away is very sad commentary on security forces on ground. There's Jammu and Kashmir Police, there's Central Reserve Police Force, there's the Indian Army. There are so many forces. We're told now the SSB and Cobra commandos are also being sent, but in all of this, the terrorists can come, strike and go and nothing happens, Kamal?
See, there is synergy, but there is also pressure when you come, that there is a sense of normalcy. Now, there has been a tactical shift when it comes to terror attacks, because most of them, they have been taking place in the Jammu region, Rajouri, Poonch, the other areas. But very tactically, off and on, Pakistan does shift, the ISI does shift it to Kashmir. And here, we are looking at a good summer season in Kashmir. There is this economic dependence on tourism. All that is going to take a severe setback. There's going to be a hit. And this is where what we've also seen is a candlelight march taking place. There is this bar association which has called out for a ban tomorrow in protest against this particular strike. So all those people who are associated and anybody who's actually human will actually condemn this particular attack. But there is one sense where they say if a situation is turning to normalcy, and every now and then it does look like things are, and people say that, the footprints of the security forces should be a little less, especially in security areas, in tourist areas, to ensure that it looks like any other normal place. But here it is, it's boomeranged.
Stay with me for a moment. There's a very disturbing story that's coming in from the casualty list, and it's with a very heavy heart that I report an Indian Navy officer, Lieutenant Vinay Narwal, is amongst the casualties in Pahalgam. The information is Lieutenant Narwal was posted in Kochi, and unfortunately he's been killed in the Pahalgam attack. He was on leave. He is from Haryana and had recently got married. Just on the 16th of April, he'd gotten married, and like every good Fauji, the little break that he took somewhere when it comes to the Faujis, it's somewhere in India. They look and, Kashmir, the paradise on earth. Sadly, Lieutenant Vinay Narwal was killed in this terror attack. Manjeet Negi joins me for more on this. Manjeet, very, very troubling information coming in. Sad for Lieutenant Narwal and his wife, his family. What more do we know, Manjeet, about this incident and about the measures that are now being taken, the countermeasures by security forces?
Well, Gaurav, a young naval officer, Lieutenant Vinay Narwal, who was posted in Kochi, and Indian Navy has confirmed that he has been killed in this recent Pahalgam attack today. And he recently married on April 16, and he went to Kashmir on honeymoon. And in the afternoon, this killed during the attack. And we are getting more information about his posting and the career. But this is a very tragic. And now the launch operation in next few days because the Home Minister is taking the ground report, and the Northern Army Commander, Lieutenant General Suchendra Kumar, who was in Delhi today, but he rushed back to Srinagar, and he will take part with the meeting with the Home Minister.
Keep tracking that story, and I will come back to you for more as the forces mount a counter-terror operation. But I want to come back for the moment on that big message that terrorists are sending out. Manjeet, many thanks for joining me. Killed for being Hindu in Kashmir. Was that the writing on the wall? Did we as a nation fail to read that writing on the wall? The fact that terror rallies were happening in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The fact that the entire nation, the world, saw that rant by Pakistan's Army Chief General Asim Munir. Did the visit of US Vice President J.D. Vance to India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, give Pakistan's military jihad complex an opportunity to strike? And 6 years after the abrogation of Article 370, do we remain as vulnerable and as reactive? Does Pakistan's ISI decide when, where, how to strike? And India will only respond by pruning, killing terrorists, celebrating victory, pruning the branches of the terror tree without striking at roots in Pakistan. Joining me on this India Today special broadcast, three of the finest voices on national security and international relations. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, former Kashmir Corps commander. Professor Brahma Chilani, one of India's best-known strategic affairs experts and advisor to India's National Security Council earlier. Dr. Tara Kartha, former director of the National Security Council Secretariat. General Hasnain, what do you make of these eyewitness accounts that have come in? Tourists singled out and killed for being Hindu, sir.
Hey, Gaurav, firstly, let me start by expressing my very deep regrets. And I'm sorry that one has had to do this repeatedly over so many years on your program. But having said that, let me say, obviously, the context, we must get the context right. The entire event was for a particular purpose, targeting for a particular purpose. Let's count out those things. Number one, returning normalcy in the Srinagar, Kashmir area, which includes this area of the Amarnath Yatra, launch pad, base camp, etc. Most of the terrorist incidents having happened in the Poonch Rajouri, in the Kathua area at the moment, an attempt to try and shift the terror base once again back into the valley, where 8 lakh visitors had just visited the Tulip Garden, and to make sure that tourism dies a natural death in Jammu and Kashmir, number one. Number two, we had the US Vice President coming in, and I'm reminded of 19th of March 2000, when Chetty Singh Pura took place. I was the Colonel GS of the Victor Force at Avantipur at that time, and I was there the next morning to see this entire terrible event which had happened. It was timed with a VIP visit from the United States, just like it seems that this particular event has also been timed along with that. Simultaneously, looking at the overall situation in the country along the borders, West Bengal, other areas, attempting to try and bring about a communal flavor, communal color to this entire thing by targeting menfolk, number one. The second thing was targeting based upon religion. That is the most dastardly thing which could have happened. And of course, everyone is seething at that. But at the same time, I must say that in Kashmir, I recently visited Kashmir and I spoke to a lot of people on ground, and I myself sensed a returning sense of normalcy. Obviously, for Pakistan, a statement such as the one which I'm making is anathema. Absolutely. They would never want to see this kind of a situation as far as India is concerned. Losing relevance, Pakistan losing relevance in the valley as such. And therefore, there was an attempt to try and regain that relevance, which has been going on since 2023 in the Jammu sector and now back in the Kashmir sector. Lastly,
does all of
I
this.
link up the Asim Munir's speech and I link up the BLA incident. And I know for sure that in Pakistan, the Pakistan army seems to be seething absolutely at this terrible loss of face which happened in Balochistan and blames India for it. And we know very well that India had nothing to do with it.
No, but all of this would indicate, Professor Chilani, Pakistan holds all the cards. Pakistan can do what it wants to do, when it wants to do, where it wants to do. We'll only react. It could do it in Chitti Singhpura in 2000 when Bill Clinton was visiting India. It can do it in 2025 when J.D. Vance is visiting India and when Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Because, as General Atta Hasnain very rightly points out, this is Pakistan's death that Kashmir is becoming normal. Pakistan, the reason why their army exists is now disappearing day by day, hour by hour. They've gained relevance. And we've given them that relevance because there's nothing we can do to prevent Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror in our country, it seems, Professor Chilani.
Gaurav, you raised the fundamental question. Why is it that India only reacts but never provokes? In fact, India prefers to play victim instead of proactively countering enemy designs or upping the ante against the foe. India's main weakness, as we all know, is a reactive and risk-averse strategic culture, coupled with the absence of strategic thinking at the highest level. We've had successive prime ministers in this country, one after another, who after taking office have sought to make peace with Pakistan, only to fall flat on their face. Haven't we seen repeatedly now? It began with Vajpayee taking the bus to Lahore and then crying publicly that the bus got hijacked to Kargil. Then we had Manmohan Singh doing that, and then inviting the horrific attacks.
But I thought post Pulwama and Balakot, the situation had changed. What happened? That was 2019. Now we're in 2025. Before I bring in Dr. Tara Kartha, Professor Chilani, post 2025, how are we back in that same position?
See, to impose sustained costs on Pakistan, as opposed to conducting a one-off operation like the Balakot airstrike, India needs to shed its reactive and risk-averse mindset. That's the most important thing. If a country just plays victim, it'll be condemned to remain a victim. Just think of this. Pakistan continues to gore India, although it's 7 times smaller demographically, 11 or 12 times smaller in economic terms, and its military spending is multiple times smaller than India's. It makes up for the power asymmetry with India through stronger political will. Imagine if Pakistan's economic and military power had been close to India's. It would have inflicted much greater harm on India.
Probably, God forbid, we would have been hearing Ralif Galif Salif in Delhi and not just in Srinagar. I mean, God forbid, the manner in which Pakistan is able to provoke and target India, fortunately not outside J&K, but unfortunately in the manner in which it is done inside J&K, Professor Tara Kartha, Dr. Tara Kartha, it's very alarming. You heard that lady, you heard that eyewitness account. Tourists were asked to recite the Kalma. Those who couldn't were killed. Is this history repeating itself in Kashmir? And this would, that saying, if you don't learn from history, you're condemned to repeat it. Is that happening with us, ma'am?
I think that is, I just want to, however, refute something which, I'm sorry, I disagree with the professor. A country which loses almost 3 soldiers every day is not my idea of an ideal state. It is not at all a strong state. And I defy any country in the world, anywhere, to resist terrorism entirely. It can't be done. Let's be very clear on that. Number 2, what you said is absolutely right. From 2001 onwards, this is the first attack you're seeing where civilians have been targeted so badly. We need to know why. There is a reason. And also, number 2, it is a signal to you that they are taking us on. Number 3, this man told you. He says, Balochistan, you think you can take Balochistan from me? You can't. Do you think I will definitely hit you in Kashmir? I will. Hindu, Muslim, he's told you everything. And then you're surprised that there's an attack. So it is something which you expect from these people because they've been hit so badly in Balochistan that by their own counter-terrorism tactics, not by anything else, because they
Yes.
did such a bad job. So now he has to do something, chest beating, which you saw what he did the other day, and today you have a terrorist attack in Kashmir. But the
I want
danger.
our viewers, I want our viewers for a moment to look at these images that are coming in from Srinagar, and I want all our guests to weigh in on these images. कातिलों को सजा दो. Qatil, those Pakistani terrorists. The other image, of course, you see is of the security forces movement and VVIP movement with the Home Minister in Jammu and Kashmir. But General Hasnain, you've served in Jammu and Kashmir over decades, from a captain to the co-commander. I want to understand from you, in the past when there were terrorist strikes by Pakistan or by those radical Islamist terrorists, would people come out on the streets in a candle march against terrorists in favor of the victims? Or is this a change in Kashmir now?
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for that question. This is very, very relevant that our viewers must understand this. I've just been to Kashmir only 2 weeks ago. And I can tell you, I spoke to a lot of people from Uri to Gandarbal and other areas. I was myself surprised at the level of change which is happening on an everyday basis. I went there last year, I went the year before. And every year when I go back there, I find a difference in the eyes of the people. If people go on a regular basis, you start understanding what the haunting look which used to be there in the earlier years, that haunting look is going away. There's a hope, there's an aspiration which is very, very well evident there. That's the hope and aspiration which is probably evident in the actions of all the people that you're seeing holding candles out here. This was something which was absolutely absent all over the valley at that time. There was nothing. Every time an incident happened, there was stone throwing or turbulence or attempts to burn up police vehicles, etc. But never this kind of a thing. And I'm glad it's happening. It's sending home a very important message.
The messages I've been getting from Kashmir, from lots of friends, I've been reporting on a situation in Jammu and Kashmir since the Kargil war and subsequently the hostility then, the support now. Professor Brahmachalani, has a lot been achieved, but the Narendra Modi government needs to do a lot more, because there may be elements, because these terrorists wouldn't have succeeded. They'd be fish out of water if there was no support, whatever support they may have, whether it's ED raids, income tax raids, sucking out money from that system. A lot more needs to be done. Where is the government not taking it to that final stretch to ensure Pakistan does not succeed in Kashmir, sir?
There are two major lessons that any nation must remember in fighting terror. First is never rest on your oars, as terrorists will innovate to craft new means for attack. And lesson number two is that the key to preventing attacks is imposing sustained costs on state sponsors of terrorism. And the timing of this attack, the fact that this has come when J.D. Vance is touring India and the US-India relationship is bouncing back from the Biden era setbacks, is also, the timing is very important because as we know that there is a long-standing pattern of Pakistan's ISI agency using high-profile visits to India to stage attacks so as to draw international media attention and to create impact on India's confidence, on its narrative that normalcy is returning to J&K, and to expose gaps in India's security. But I think the most troubling aspect of it is that, we had this 26/11 many years ago.
Yes.
And then now we have an attack in terms of its scale, in terms of its magnitude, which is beginning to look as if this is another 26/11. Maybe on a smaller scale. But the way civilians were systematically targeted, the way they were slaughtered, the way the government, the local authorities were caught napping, all this raises fundamental questions about our security.
Absolutely. About our intelligence, Dr. Tarak Artha. like you said, the writing was on the wall. And before we move forward, I want our country, because I want this to be a part of India's DNA, to know what is Pakistan's DNA. Deceit, bigotry, hatred for India, and, whatever we may think, whether it's an Asim Munir or some of the diplomats who may appear very suave, they're all 50 shades of Hafiz Muhammad Saeed. I don't know why some of us don't understand that, but let's listen in to General Asim Munir. So from Parvez Musharraf, or let's say Ziaul Haq, or go beyond Yahya Khan, Tikka Khan, A.K. Niazi, look at their generals all the way to the current chap, Asim Munir. Listen in to General Asim Munir. Listen him to his rants. He sounds more like a radical mullah at some pulpit, some Maulana, and not a four-star general. Listen into General Asim Munir. We'll get back to our guests and get more on that story.
पाकिस्तान की कहानी अपने बच्चों को जो है आपने जरूर सुनानी है ताकि वो पाकिस्तान की कहानी ना भूलें. Well, our forefathers, they thought that we are different from the Hindus in every possible aspect of life. Our religion is different. Our customs are different. Our traditions are different. Our thoughts are different. Our ambitions are different. That was the foundation of the two-nation theory that was laid there. That we are two nations. We are not one nation. So because of that, our forefathers, they struggled, mounted that incessant struggle to create this country. Our forefathers, they have sacrificed immensely, and we have sacrificed a lot for the creation of this country. And we know how to defend it. My dear brothers and sisters and sons and daughters, please don't forget the story of Pakistan. And don't forget to narrate the story of Pakistan to your next generation, so that their bond with Pakistan, it never weakens. Whether it is the third generation or the fourth generation or the fifth generation, they know that what Pakistan is for them. आज तक इंसानियत की तारीख में सिर्फ दो रियासतें हैं जो कलमे की बुनियाद पर बनी हैं. पहली जो थी उसका नाम है रियासत तैयबा, क्योंकि तैयबा जो है वो नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने उसको नाम दिया था. और जबकि कुरान में उसका नाम है यसरब, या अहले यसरबा ला मुकाम लकुम फरजिउ, ये कुरान में नाम है उसका, जो आज जिसको मदीना अल मुनव्वरा कहा जाता है. और दूसरी रियासत जो है वो उसके 1300 साल के बाद अल्लाह ताला ने ये आपकी बनाई है कलमे की बुनियाद के ऊपर.
This was known. Our intelligence agencies, General Hasnain, should have known. Chitti Singhpura gave them that example that when there's a high-profile VVIP visit, Pakistani terrorists will strike. Yet we did not protect Pahalgam. Or is it impossible? Since you commanded the corps, you know the situation better. Is it impossible to protect every area? Did our agencies fail to assess, MAC, SMAC, all these agencies that we have, multi-agency center to assess, to give inputs, to give information, to carry out? Everything failed once again, sir?
See, Gaurav, intelligence is a very, very difficult game. After all, the United States, with the most advanced intelligence systems in the world, failed to detect 9/11. Israel, with the most advanced intelligence systems in the world, technically the most advanced too, failed to detect what happened on October the 7th. I'm not justifying it. But what I'm telling you is that people should understand that the game of intelligence is extremely difficult. It's very easy for us to say an intelligence failure immediately after an event. Yes, intelligence failures have taken place there. But also there have been many, many occasions when intelligence successes have prevented things like this happening. No, I'm not batting for the intelligence agencies. What I'm essentially trying to also explain is a simple rationale that when the strength of terrorists was 3,000, 3,500, I used to get loads and loads of information every day. I had to, discern what is correct and what is wrong and try and synthesize the whole thing. When the strength of terrorists comes down to 70 foreign terrorists and maybe a few more, both across the Pir Panjal, it becomes very, very difficult to get the footprint correct. Where is the presence of the terrorists? Where are they likely to be striking? For example, in this case, if 3 to 4 terrorists are there, lots of people are surmising that they have come from across the border. I would say they were resident terrorists. They are foreign terrorists and resident terrorists here. All they have done is they've come from the Pir Panjal area across into the Kishtwar area. It takes you 10 to 15 days to do that. And they've come into an area where actions have taken place in the past. strategically chosen Amarnath Yatra base, and also possibly information that this is an undefended area, not dominated by the army, CRPF, or any of the other forces. Till that time, normally what happens is that this area starts getting dominated in the month of June. Because the Yamarnath Yatra comes up in about the first week of July, the second week of July. So about a month is required. And I used to monitor the intelligence out here personally. I still remember getting information from the IB and all other intelligence agencies. They gave us information about possible movements here and there. And we took those proactive actions. But to protect every area, I agree, is difficult. But this area is definitely an area which needed focus. And probably will continue to need focus.
General, stay with me because I want to continue this conversation on what should India's next step be, the tactical response and the strategic response, the short-term, medium-term and long-term response. As I also welcome on the special broadcast Ifra Jan, spokesperson for the National Conference, who joins us on the show. Dr. Tarak Artha, stay with me as we listen in to Anupam Kher. He's a film actor. He is a Kashmiri Hindu, a Kashmiri Pandit from the Kashmir Valley. He saw this. He's responded. Listen in.
देश के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी से और अमित शाह जी से और पूरी सरकार से दरख्वास्त हाथ जोड़कर दरख्वास्त करना चाहता हूं कि इस बार ऐसा सबक सिखाया जाए इन आतंकवादियों को कि अगले 7 जन्म तक ये ऐसी हरकत करने के लायक ना रहें। गलत है, गलत। दुनिया के किसी भी इलाके में इस तरह की हरकत गलत है, लेकिन हमारे देश में पहलगाम में जो आज हत्याकांड हुआ है बहुत गलत है।
Dr. Tarak Artha, we've discussed this in the past. God forbid, I hope we never have to discuss this in the future, another terror attack in our country. But, you know, how should India respond to this? Tactically, these terrorists who are here, even if you kill them, like you killed those 10 terrorists in Mumbai and hanged Kasab, that was like pruning the leaves of the terror tree. Roots are still in Pakistan. One Balakot in 2019 clearly is not enough. What is it that India should, can and must do?
You know, Gaurav, on one level, I'll tell you something. Pakistan for the last several years has been saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, and we ignored them because they didn't matter. This is Pakistan telling you, now look at me. What are you going to do? Right? So that is exactly your question. But however, the point is, as a professional, you cannot tie the PM's hands. I mean, this is an attack which is telling you, you are at war. So do you want to go down that road or don't you want to go down that road is a decision which we cannot take. It's something very easily said. I would love to say, rationally speaking, Pakistan should not be doing this ever. How did the world allow this to happen? How did the world allow this country to continue again and again and again doing this for years? And they take it. They go and visit them. The diplomats go there. How is this happening?
Okay.
So
Ma'am, I'm getting breaking news coming in from the United States of America. US President Donald Trump has just responded, has reacted. President Trump says deeply disturbing news coming out of Kashmir. The United States stands strong with India against terrorism. We pray for the souls of those lost and for the recovery of the injured. Prime Minister Modi and the incredible people of India have our full support and deepest sympathies. Our hearts are with you all. Donald Trump was at the White House when Balakot was bombed. I want to once again bring in Dr. Tarak Artha to complete that point. And not for once are we warmongering, not for once are we saying we need another Balakot. But sustained costs, Dr. Kartha, need to be imposed on that radical Islamist state sponsor of terror, and whatever the cost. Yes, we will have casualties, and yes, every casualty is traumatic, but a casualty without responding is equally traumatic.
I absolutely agree, Gaurav. At the moment, my blood is boiling. I was just thinking that Balakot attack. If instead of you had swerved slightly left, you could have hit Rawalpindi. That day you could have hit Rawalpindi and there's nothing they could have done about it. So, but then, like I said, as a state which is stable, which is a democracy, and which is able to control its actions, we have to think this through. We need to punish them so hard that they, and finally, this has to stop. That's what I'm trying to say. We have to find a solution together with our allies and partners. I mean, okay, we don't have allies, but our partners, to see that this country stops once and for all. It's
because if we don't act,
and us.
Absolutely, because there's a Pakistan 2.0, Bangladesh, and this will embolden those radical Islamists even in Bangladesh, in case there is no response, and the response must be demonstrative and punitive. Before I bring in General Hasnain, Ifra Jan joins us from Srinagar, spokesperson for the National Conference. Was security lax? What are you picking up from ground, Ifra? Hundreds and hundreds of tourists, very little deployment of security forces. What are you picking up? What went wrong?
You see, as Mr. Hasnan very rightly pointed out, this is a security lapse. We can go on criticize the BJP government because the security is not in our domain. But Gaurav, honestly, I as a political spokesperson for the National Conference would probably love to do that. But today is not the time to nitpick on each other. Today is not the time to nitpick on our security agencies. Today is not the time to nitpick on BJP, which handles the security. Today is the time to show unity. Today is the time to come together, recognize that, as Ms. Tara very rightly pointed out, that we are almost in a war-like situation. Right now, if you were to ask me what is the Jammu Kashmir National Conference government, I would like to just brief you and everybody what we are doing. Right now, the Honorable Chief Minister, Mr. Umar Abdullah, firstly, he was the first one to condemn this. He said this is beyond condemnation because this is an act of, this is an animalistic act, only an animal could do something that has happened today. I mean, especially when you look at the communal angle here. Number two, what are we doing right now? The Honorable Chief Minister, just right as we are speaking, just 30 minutes before, he was briefing the Honorable Home Minister of our country along with the LG. So there was a high profile meeting happening where the Honorable Home Minister was briefed about what was going on. Number two, our Health Minister Sakina Ituji, she cancelled all her programs. She straight away went to the hospital where some of the injured tourists were taken. Right now, Ms. Sakina Ituji, our Cabinet Minister, is on the job ensuring that top level healthcare is provided to those tourists who are injured and are recovering. The local MLAs, Gaurav, they are right now in the hospital, not just the local MLAs, but also the MLAs of surrounding areas. That's what the government is doing. One, I'm not sure if this is a glimmer of hope, but you have protests going on in Kashmir right now. You have a protest in Pahalgam. You have others coming up. Constantly, as I talk to you, my phone is buzzing with messages. One group is called for protest in Lal Chowk. Another is calling for it in Jammu. Third one is calling for it everywhere. I have never in my life seen so many protests being organized so rapidly by Kashmiris all around. One thing I would like to say, Gaurav, not just as a spokesperson for National Conference, that has actually lost 5,000 of its members to attacks like this, but also as a Kashmiri Muslim, that not in my name, that in no case can somebody do this in my name. I mean, forget everything else beyond politics, beyond our political divides. We are human beings. We are fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers. So to kill somebody and say, oh, because you're of a particular religion and therefore it's perfectly okay for me to kill you, this is animal behavior beyond condemnation. And I hope that this never happens again. And again, I say this, not in our names.
That's a very, very powerful message that comes from you and your party, Ifra, and thank you very much. You know, the messages that you're getting, I'm getting them too from a lot of friends in Jammu and in Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir is rising against Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, and as Ifra said, not in my name. Breaking news coming in, more breaking news coming in. The Russian president has reacted. Russian President Vladimir Putin has also extended condolences to President of India Draupadi Murmu and to Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the tragic terror attack that's taken place in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir. He said, and I quote, "Esteemed Mrs. President, esteemed Mr. Prime Minister, kindly accept the sincere condolences over the tragic consequences of the terrorist attack in Pahalgam, whose victims were civilians, citizens of various countries. This brutal crime has no justification whatsoever. We expect that its organizers and perpetrators will face deserved punishment. I would like to reiterate our commitment to further increasing cooperation with Indian partners in fighting terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Please convey words of sincere sympathy and support to the near and dear ones of the deceased, as well as wishes for the speedy recovery of all injured." That's the message that's come again from a very strong partner of India, a dear friend of India, the Russian President Vladimir Putin. So you've had a response that's coming from the US President Donald Trump, again seen as somebody who's very close to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and a friend of India's Vice President J.D. Vance described, and of course from the Russian president. I'll get you more on that story. Dr. Tara Kartha stays with me, as does Ifra Jan. Sources are telling India Today, more news coming in. Our reporters are getting you latest inputs as they come in. A close aid of that Pakistani terrorist and a UN-designated banned terrorist organization and individual Hafiz Muhammad Saeed, his aid is responsible for the Pahalgam attack, is what sources are telling India Today. Information that we're getting is Saifullah Kasuri, a close aide of Hafiz Muhammad Saeed, the professor of terror at Muridke in Pakistan, is responsible for this terror strike. Sources are saying that the deputy chief of Lashkar-e-Taiba plotted this terror attack because the effort of Pakistan's ISI is to get a spike in terror in Jammu and Kashmir, and especially as tourists come in large numbers. Dr. Tara Kartha, this is what sources are telling India Today. Ifra, you know, how do you react to this when information comes in about lakhs and lakhs of tourists coming to Jammu and Kashmir, and especially to the valley, as valley prepares for the Amarnath Yatra, and suddenly this terror attack? What does this do to people in the valley, Ifra?
You know, if you were to look at, if you are asking me what are the other angles involved here other than the fact that this is a barbaric, inhuman act, if you were to look at other angles, number one, it's very clearly hitting the economy of Jammu and Kashmir. But again, that is not the point, because it's hit the people of Jammu and Kashmir, it's hit our identity. We hang our heads in shame today because honestly, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, next generation, my generations will be asked questions. So this is not just an attack on the economy of Jammu and Kashmir. This is also an attack on the character of Jammu and Kashmir. This is also something, this is a blot that people like us will always have to carry, even though we have had nothing to do with it. So again, I'm saying, yes, this is an attack on the economy of Jammu and Kashmir. This is an attack on Indian government as large. This is telling us that we are in a warlike situation. And as I said, no words of condemnation are enough. I don't know what to say. The trail that you constantly have been showing, it's actually a trekking trail. And so many of my friends are sending messages saying that they were on this trail just last year. And now, you know, this is not just put fear in the hearts of non-locals or other tourists who are visiting Kashmir, but also locals. And everybody is saying, oh my God, we were going through these trails. What do we do now?
Absolutely.
So there is panic.
How does one ensure, you know, terrorists cannot survive, and especially Pakistani terrorists, unless there are pockets of local support somewhere or the other in Jammu and Kashmir or in any other part of the country or anywhere in the world. Terrorists are like fish in water. If you drain that water, terrorists will die. How does one ensure that there are no, safe pockets or zones for terrorists to move, or they shrink so much that they're unable to move? In your appreciation, Ifra, your perspective on this?
As I said, Gaurav, I have never seen this kind of condemnation against any terror attack in my entire life. Of course, people have condemned it. People have largely, like 99.99999% of the population is not involved in any case. We are all, as with any population, Kashmiris largely are a peaceful population. But today, as I said, has also been a sort of a reckoning which I've never seen. As I'm constantly telling you, I see so many messages coming in my WhatsApp right now that there are so many candle marches happening. One doesn't even know where to go, which one to attend. So this
I think we should cover as many as we can, and I hope to talk to you more about this in the days and weeks ahead. But beyond candlelight marches, because I've covered candlelight marches after 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, I've covered candlelight marches after Akshardham and after terror attacks in Delhi and in Mumbai and in many other parts of the country. I want to cover more decisive action against Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, and wherever else, terror has a sanctuary, because if unpunished, it will only hit us harder. But that last thought, who are these evil men and what were they doing? Don't hear it from me, hear it from one of the eyewitnesses, what she underwent, how Hindus were singled out and killed in Pahalgam today. Listen in. I leave you with these images and I leave you with that voice. Don't let it haunt you like it will haunt a lot of us if we are unable to ensure that India is kept safer from Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror in our lifetimes.
आपकी क्या बात हुई जो आपके घर वाले वहां पर मौजूद है पहलगाम में? क्या हुआ है आखिर उन्होंने क्या बताया?
एक्चुअली हुआ ये सर कि हम लोग घूमने आए थे बेताब वैली करके, जहाँ पे मिनी स्विट्जरलैंड एरिया है। वो ओपन एरिया है पूरा पहाड़ी, और वहाँ से कुछ आतंकवादी है, कौन है पता नहीं, वो लोग आए, उन्होंने सीधा फायरिंग शुरू कर दिया। और फायरिंग करते टाइम उन लोगों ने, जितने भी हिंदू लोग थे, उनको सबको पकड़ के धमकी दिया कि आप अजान पढ़ो, और नहीं पढ़ोगे तो उनको गोलियां मार दी। तो उसमें मेरे पापा, मतलब मेरे पिताजी थे और मेरे चाचा थे, उन दोनों को भी उन लोगों ने गोलियां मारी। मोदी जी का नाम लेके हमें बोल रहे थे कि आप लोगों ने मोदी जी को बढ़ा के रखा है, सर पे चढ़ा के रखा है, आपकी वजह से हमारा मजहब खतरे में है, ये सब वो बोल रहे हैं। अभी मेरे पापा और चाचा दोनों को भी गोलियां लगी। हम लोग महाराष्ट्र पुणे से है, हम लोग इधर पहलगाम में अभी शिफ्ट हुए अपने, मैं अपनी मम्मी और चाची के साथ बैठी हूँ यहाँ पे पहलगाम क्लब में।
कैसी है तबीयत आपके चाचा जी की और चाचा जी और पिताजी की तबीयत कैसी है?
अपडेट नहीं है। हम लोग 4 बजे के आसपास, 3:30-4 बजे के आसपास ये इंसिडेंट हुआ, बट तब से अभी तक हमें कोई खबर नहीं है, हमें कुछ भी अपडेट नहीं मिल रहा है सर।
क्या आप सेफ है? आपसे किसी ने संपर्क किया था?
कोई मिनिस्टर आए थे हमसे मिले इधर के।
आप कैसे बच गए? जब आतंकवादी गोलियां चला रहे थे तो आप वहां पर नहीं थे?
मेरे सामने ही हुआ है सर, मेरे साथ ही हम लोग एक इसके पीछे छुपे थे, टेंट के पीछे छुपे थे। वो लोग बाहर से आए, उन्होंने मेरे पापा को उठाया, उनको गोलियां मारी, फिर मेरे चाचा लेटे हुए थे, उनको गोलियां मारी। हमारे बाजू में एक फैमिली थी, उनमें से 2 लोगों को उन्होंने गोलियां मारी और हमें बोला कि अजान पढ़ो नहीं तो तुम लोगों को मार देंगे। और उन्होंने किसी भी औरत को या बच्चे को नहीं मारा, सिर्फ और सिर्फ जेंट्स को मारा है। जितने भी जेंट्स वहाँ पे प्रेजेंट है, जिनसे उनकी बहस हुई, वहाँ पे उनके लोकल कुछ मुस्लिम लोग भी थे, मतलब कश्मीरी मुस्लिम जो भी होंगे, पता नहीं कौन थे, बट जो लोग लोकल थे उन लोगों को भी उन्होंने डराया था। वो लोग अजान पढ़ रहे थे, उनका सुन के हम लोग भी पढ़ने लगे कि हमें ना गोली मार दे।